I hope your night turned out quite okay and you're ready to kickstart your day in style. My name is Jesse Rogers. You're right on time for the best way to start your morning. Welcome once again to Morning Express. We're coming to you live from Hill Park Hotel, where we will be taking a look at the latest developments. As usual, we'd definitely like to kickstart this particular show, taking a look at the latest in terms of the dailies. And we'll take a look at Daily Nation. We also have the Standard, the Bold newspaper, as well as Business Daily. Joining me in studio to help me take a look at some of these contentious issues that have been touched in today's dailies is Stella Agara. Many thanks for making time and welcome to Morning Express.
Anytime when I can.
Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, well, she's joining me as a governance and youth development specialist. We'll definitely start with the Daily Nation right now. Well, the front page is centered on education at first, where there is a directive by the Education Cabinet Secretary who warned principals against sending students home. But the big question that principals are asking is how exactly they will feed the pupils, even as they defy George Magoha's instructions and send students who reported to school empty-handed back home, presenting fresh problems for parents. We'll definitely take a look at this later on in totality, but I just want your brief input on what exactly is happening. It seems to be well, the government seems to be shooting itself on the foot. Yesterday, the Cabinet Secretary for Education, George Magoha, said studying under trees is the healthiest way. Kiriako Tobiko, the CS for Environment, says it's done around the world, even in the US. What's your take on this?
I think, let me first start with that statement, that studying under the tree is done even in the US. If you're studying under the tree as an option of being in class, then it's okay. Yeah. But if you're studying under a tree because that is the only thing you can be able to do and there are no classes for you to be in, then there's a problem. The government had a whole year, 9 whole months to prepare for students going back to school. COVID did not just start yesterday, it has been with us. True. They have seen other countries opening up their schools. They have seen the measures that most of those schools took to be able to promote social distancing. They have seen, even neighboring governments putting efforts like Rwanda to build classes that are going to accommodate the pupils when they go back to school. Yeah. Why our government did not make effort to make those changes, I do not understand. Expecting children to sit under trees with the January sun, and it's coming, is also quite, a huge call on the students, especially if they're required to concentrate. Okay. But having said that, we need to be a bit more serious about how we execute some of the policies we want to execute in this country. You cannot give a directive to the head teachers and tell them that they have to keep children in school, irrespective of whether they paid their school fees or not, or whether they've brought whatever resources they need to bring. Yet the head teachers do not know how to keep them in school. What kind of magic, for example, does the CS want the head teachers to do in the schools? Are they going to do some magic and produce food to feed those children? Are they going to produce resources to buy that water that is required for them to wash hands and the soap and the likes? So I think the CS needs to be realistic. Okay. Whatever he wants to see happening in the schools, either the government needs to pay for, or they find ways of ensuring that then citizens have money in their pockets to pay for those services. Well, it
truly is a conundrum. Well, we'll definitely see how it develops. We'll get to discuss more about this later on in the big topics we'll be highlighting. But we have to take a look at the threat to democracy that happened in the United States of America. I mean, it is a shame. That's what the Daily Nation says. Disgraced Trump finally yields to the power of the vote. Now, from a first world country, taking a look at this, what exactly do you draw in terms of conclusions about the state of democracy?
I think let me first start by expressing my joy.
Your joy?
Extreme joy that this is actually happening in the United States of America.
Why is this?
Sometimes when your bully in school is now punished by the head teacher for another mistake, probably not bullying you, sometimes you want to celebrate their punishment.
But the United States refers to itself as the big brother, not the bully.
United States refers to itself as the big brother, but you don't just become a big brother, you earn your space as the big brother.
Quite so.
And as a big brother, there are certain things that you need to do, and one of them is being a role model. As of yesterday, one of the things that I know they were not doing is not being role models, number one. But number two, they seem to have been following instructions from the continent of Africa. Everything that happened in the United States yesterday has been seen happening in a country here in Africa. You know, from the drama in the assembly to you know, protests to, I mean, all levels, including deaths and bloodshed. So for me, I'm celebrating this because it's an equalizer. But not just because it's an equalizer, also because it sets us as citizens of this world to begin thinking about who do we, you know, perceive as role models in the world. Mm-hmm. Who are we looking up to provide leadership? I was having a conversation early this morning where I was saying that we may need to rethink what role models for democracy is. We may need to rethink the place of the United States as far as democracy is concerned. I saw a joke about the fact that Nicolas Cage managed to steal the Declaration of Independence in the movie. Yeah. And now people are saying probably he made it look like it's too hard. Yeah. For me, that exposes the soft underbelly of the United States of America. Okay. They claim to have a system, they have poised themselves as the big brother, and now everything is crumbling. So for me, the crumbling of this entire system is evidence that it was made of cookies.
All right.
Number one.
It's also quite keen to put it out there that Facebook and Instagram have also taken action against Donald Trump, just saying they might suspend him from posting on their social media handles for at least the next 2 weeks until there's a peaceful transition when President-elect Joe Biden takes over.
And I have a lot to say about that.
What?
I have a lot to say about that.
Yes.
I am one of those people who are of the thinking that Facebook and Twitter should not involve themselves in the conversations about nationhood.
Well, why is that?
Why? Because they are a platform where everyone is supposed to be expressing their individual opinion. So the moment they start controlling what people say, we are developing another monster on the side.
But this is someone in power.
This is someone in power.
Yes, he has access to nuclear codes.
There are mechanisms in the United States of America that can be used to make sure that Trump does not say what is inappropriate. There are mechanisms to punish him if he says something that is inappropriate. Let those mechanisms function, but let it not be the role of Facebook and Twitter to shut up people from speaking, because this has been happening a lot in the last 1 year. And for me, my fear is that as they continue gaining power to shut people up, we are shrinking, you know, the civic space, we are shrinking political spaces, and very soon it will be illegal to say certain things that may actually need to be said just because Facebook and Twitter is not happy with what you're saying.
Well, freedom of expression is a key component in our human rights, yes. But it seems this measures that are supposed to actually, you know, gag or hold Trump in place as president didn't work in the last 4 years. This seems to be a last resort.
And if those measures did not work in the United States of America, then the United States of America needs to think through new ways of gagging them.
Okay.
And not necessarily, you know, some of the violent ways that are, for example, being used in Uganda to gag the likes of Bobby Wine. Yeah. But I'm talking about a country making sure that then they regulate how people use this resource. But the resource is being provided by a supplier who should not be a referee and also be a player in the match.
Well, this is definitely something we'll continue monitoring. Looking at the state of the United States, rather, page 3 on the Daily Nation, they ask, who's the banana republic now? And I'm sure that puts a smile on your face. Let's just take a look at page 7, rather, on the Daily Nation before we transition to the Standard. And this is centered on the messy power play that is actually ongoing at the county of Nairobi. This is even as the judge allows a withdrawal of petition that had blocked one Miss Anne Mwenda from being vetted as the deputy governor nominee. Well, I don't know what you have to say about this. There was some developments in the courts. Mike Sonko's attempt to actually bar this particular process was thrown out. Does this actually show the state of affairs in the capital? Are you happy with what is being played out?
The state of Nairobi County is not one to be happy about. I wish we were a bit more orderly. I wish we had selected a good governor. I wish we were functioning like a proper county. And especially because we are supposed to be the model county, as the US is supposed to be the model for the rest of us in the world. Yeah. But we are not. And the fact that we are not then means that certain things needed to happen. Yeah. One of them, and I'm on record here on KTN as having said, one of them is that our governor needed to go. We needed to have a visionary leader in that position. We needed to have someone who's able to lead this county in a more dignified manner, and in a manner that would then demonstrate the kind of leadership that Nairobi County is supposed to provide. But having said that, one of the items that I think we should not forget about Nairobi County is that this seat is highly contested. It is highly, highly contested. In the event that we go into a by-election today, you know that even the handshake friends may become enemies for a few days just for that position to be filled up. So the move to, allow the county assembly to vet Anne Mwendwa, for me, is actually a move that I think, if I view it politically, is a move by Jubilee to make sure that we do not go into a by-election. Because if she is approved and she actually takes up the position of deputy governor, then it means a decision can quickly be made for her to become the governor, and there is no by-election.
Well,
so this is political expediency, in my view. And honestly, I think it's a good card to be played by Jubilee. But we must also be very cautious about the games that are going on in the county.
All right.
As politics is being played, we must also guard against losing out as citizens on what we should be benefiting from the county.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we surely hope the cookie doesn't crumble. Let's see how this whole scenario plays out. Let's cross over to the Standard real quick. Page 1 is all about, or rather the front page is all about America's dark day. In shock, security lapse, Trump supporters stormed the symbol of U.S.'s power in bloody political violence as concern grows over stability of a leader blocked from social media but holding nuclear codes. Well, you talked about this, and there's more information on page 6 right there, but I want to take a look at what's happening on page 7. Battle lines were drawn as that is the United Democratic Alliance joined the race for mini poll slots. As you well know, the UDA is sort of mentioned to be fronted by the Deputy President William Ruto, where that particular party is expected to unveil 2 candidates in by-elections, one for Kabuchai constituency and the other for Matungu parliamentary seat. That's according to sources. What do you make of this? Will it be a power play, the president versus the deputy president, in terms of Jubilee versus UDA?
It's definitely going to be a power play, and it's one that I am actually looking forward to analyzing. The reason why is because, I mean, we all appreciate that the deputy president is a very ambitious gentleman.
Quite so.
And I imagine that if he has made a decision that he wants to go for these seats, and if he's actually setting candidates to contend, then he is not in it to lose. He is definitely in it to win. So one of the people I'll be looking out for is the deputy president and the strategy that is going to be deploying in those two areas.
Yeah.
But what do I think of this party? I think it was coming. It was coming. In fact, they've taken a little too long.
I think we all saw it coming.
We all saw it coming. They have been disgruntled in the party. They needed to look for a creative way to exit their prison cell in Jubilee without necessarily causing themselves to have to go back for by-elections.
Yeah.
So ideally, they're saying they have revived the party and renamed, and it's a part of the Jubilee coalition, and they are still in support of the president, just so that they don't have to go back for by-elections. But I guess this also has been done now, so that they can then, position themselves for
2022.
Come 2022, but also for the by-elections. Because remember, the deputy president has consistently said that these by-elections are a test of what he's going to deliver during the referendum and 2022.
It's a litmus test.
It's a litmus test, yes.
But knowing politics, a day in politics is quite a lot. For every action, there's a reaction.
100%.
And we expect a reaction from the Jubilee Party. I mean, right before all this, the Jubilee Party had actually mentioned of taming the rogue members of parliament within the party. Now, what exactly might we expect in the ruling Jubilee Party going forward? Remember, they have the Nairobi by-elections coming soon. We also have a couple of other by-elections. It's not time for internal wrangles.
The one thing that we must remember is that the party still has a leadership.
Yes.
And the leadership of the party enjoys certain privileges and powers to make certain decisions. They may convene a caucus where they will agree that they will allow certain parties to take precedence in the 2 by-elections. Yeah. And therefore decide that the UDA party does not, have any grounds to vie in that area. And I think that then will present a stalemate in which you would have to wait and see what the Deputy President will do.
Quite so.
He claims, and I heard him speaking yesterday at the burial ceremony for Musalia Mudavadi's mother, that they do not want to fight the leader of their party while they're inside, and he was even encouraging the opposition to take up some of the blame for some of the things that are going wrong. So he is trying to look cordial right now. But at the point when they shall be asked not to field a candidate, I think we shall now see the real crossfire that is expected. I also see the possibility of the president and the party leadership actually having quite a heavy hand in this conversation and insisting that certain things go a certain way.
Wow.
Possibly to push them out and put them at a place where they do not have many choices, but also just to flex their muscles, because everyone is trying to see how strong they are and how ready they are for 2022.
Well, we'll definitely be right here as it all unfolds. Let's take a look at page 10 quite briefly, just moving over to page 12 right after. Medics are set to begin strike after the Council of Governors rejected the deal. Now, this is all in terms to the return to work formula that was agreed upon by clinical officers and the Ministry of Health, which was termed as a New Year gift. We'll get time to talk more about this later on, right after the short break. But page 12 is all about the elusive Luhya Unity. You highlighted a little bit about the talks that happened right there during Mama Hannah's memorial service that happened yesterday at Friends International Center Church. The main topic of discussion was the Mulembe Nation's unity, which seems quite elusive. Every election cycle, this is usually the rhetoric. Will this actually happen, or it's simply elusive?
I am quite the optimist.
Quite optimist.
I am quite the optimist. But there is one political agenda in this country that I struggle to be optimistic about, and that is Luhya Unity.
And why is this?
I'm on record on very many conversations having said that I first of all, do not understand why Luhyas have completely refused to vote together. I also am on record. In fact, the last time I was on this show, on the breakfast show, I actually said that if they succeed in voting as a unit, they will be the game changer. If you notice, every election year, they normally have a conversation about uniting and bringing change and everything, but for some strange reason, they still haven't found the proper formula to actually gel them together. But then you also realize that some of the issues that they are divided over are quite, if I may call them, petty. I was being told about, for example, some of the disparities between the Bukusu and the Maragoli. That, you know, the Bukusus believe that they're the ones who had the money, educated their children, you know, have massive parcels of land, and the Maragoli are poor people, and therefore they should not tell them anything, and they shouldn't be able to speak before them. So even the idea of voting together or agreeing to vote together is problematic. But for me, that is a petty issue compared to what they'll be able to gain if they together seek the political kingdom. So I think that they do quite a good job of you know, engaging in rhetoric about unity and causing Kenyans to think that maybe they have a plan to unite. But I doubt if it's going to happen, at least not for this election.
At least not for this election. Well, it's a game of wait and see. They were quite optimistic yesterday, and we expect a lot of developments over this particular weekend leading up to the burial of Mama Hannah on Saturday.
They are always very optimistic before the elections.
Well, let's see. Let's hope there will be major political realignments or connotations that will be made during that particular burial. And of course, we condole with the family of Mudavadi. Let's quickly take a look at what's happening in the Business Daily. It is quite tough for the economy right now. Just taking a look at one story right there on the front page that it has been highlighted more on page 4. School transport fees set to rise up by up to 80% rather on COVID rules. Now, this is quite a challenge. I mean, for schools which are actually struggling to comply with the extra costs that have come with the COVID-19 safety guidelines. What do you make of the back-to-school rush? We'll get to talk about this later on after the break, but briefly, what do you make of the back-to-school rush? The pressure on the parents, the students who are not supposed to be, I don't know, seen by the media studying in classes under trees. What do you make of all this, even in the rush up to the KCPE and KCSE examinations?
I want to repeat my sentiments concerning the opening of schools and say that we had 9 months to prepare. And I'm not referring to parents here, I'm referring to the government.
To the government, yeah.
They should have anticipated that there was going to be a struggle when schools reopen. And the struggle was going to arise because, number one, livelihoods have been affected. Any of the resources that had been saved for school fees by the parents have been used to cover some of the costs of having their children at home.
Yeah.
We can safely say that the parents walikula fair. So basically, they knew that we were going to come to a situation where children are going to come back to school and they would need certain amenities.
Quite so.
Increasing the cost of transport is basically just going to affect, the ability of parents to be able to provide that service to their children. Now, if they don't use the school transport, and they decide to use public means, it still exposes them to other dangers. Yeah. And of course, with a country that has demonstrated in the last 1 year that even girls are still at risk of being impregnated by strangers and all that, I think the safety of these children is extremely important. But for me, all this is symptomatic of a country that refused to plan effectively for the reopening of schools, and now they hope that some magic is going to happen. Okay. But one of the things I've noted since the reopening of the country and the gradual reopening of the country is that when the government started reopening the country, they quickly stopped giving the welfare support they were giving to citizens. Yeah. And they were in a hurry to shut it down completely. It seems that this is what they're doing with every other sector, and that's what they're doing with the education sector. They're saying, you take your child to school, whatever. If your child cannot stay in school because of school fees, you'll sort yourself out. I think it's irresponsible. I think it is very irresponsible and even unfair of a government to cause citizens, one, to take care of their own food needs, of their own basic needs at home, and then insist that they also take care of the secondary need to take their children to school, when already we've had enough resources for COVID-19, we've had support from all over, and the resources were embezzled by elements who have not been arrested until this point. Okay. It is very, very unfair to continue milking a cow that I could safely say is now almost dead.
Well, we'll definitely wait and see. The government is definitely trying to play its part, despite the shortfalls and the shortcomings that are definitely set to be highlighted by the media. We'll take a short break right now on Morning Express. Do stay with us. When we come back, we highlight the week in review. It has been a busy week. In terms of schools reopening, we now canvass the entire topic, from members of the press being locked out from various institutions of learning to the challenges of social distancing, which the government has said it will be a challenge going forward. Not just that, the KCPE, KCSE examinations are just around the corner. Bearing in mind these are unprecedented times, what should we expect? Not just that, the health crisis in the country is calling for attention. We have the nurses, the clinical officers, the laboratory workers as well, who are on strike, and doctors as well. Some counties have gone even further ahead to actually cancel the contracts with the medical doctors. Will transverse this? Is it actually a good move by the counties or not? Not just that, we'll also take a look at other topics. So do stay with Morning Express. We'll be back in a short break.